No new Osmo Mobile gimbal from DJI this year. Instead, they just made a very good gimbal a little bit better. And in a way, that's kind of refreshing, isn't it?
If you're like me, then video is your passion, in which case the DJI Osmo Mobile 6 might just be the perfect tool for you. Now with the updated ActiveTrack 6 and a platinum grey colour option. But isn't this really just a fancy selfie stick?
As a professional creator, I want my footage to be smooth and stable. But a phone's inbuilt stabilization often isn't enough. And I also want a gimbal that's easy to use and it's easy to carry.
DJI have released a new foldable gimbal every year since 2019. But not this year. Instead, they decided to upgrade a classic. 3-axis motorized stabilization, magnetic quick-release mounting. There's the quick start, extending handle, a side wheel for focus and zoom control. Plus there's the feature-rich Mimo app.
So there's 3 reasons why I use a smartphone gimbal. 1, inbuilt stabilization doesn't work so well in low light. And 2, it reduces the quality slightly. And 3, a gimbal gives me way more shot options than just handheld.
Nobody works harder at your content than you. But sometimes we need to work smarter. Are you ready to unfold your creativity? The Osmo Mobile 6 is the last in a series of Osmo Mobile gimbals. Whereas 1 to 4 could easily fit in a backpack, numbers 5 and 6 could just about squeeze in your pocket.
Yeah, you can get bigger and more powerful gimbals. But when I'm traveling, sometimes I can't afford to take big cases full of equipment. And I need my kit to be as small and as light as possible.
Smartphones have liberated filmmaking and leveled the playing field. Now combine that with the Osmo Mobile 6 and it brings a whole new level of freedom. Before you learn the secrets that will unleash the full power of this device, let's get up to speed on the basic controls.
The modes of a gimbal often throw up a lot of questions. I mean, why do we have all these modes? And which mode should I use for which shot? As creators, our camera represents the eyes of the viewer. Now think about how you want to show the world to your audience.
Central to the Osmo Mobile 6 are the 3 key modes: follow, tilt locked and FPV. And these 3 modes relate to the 3 motors. When you switch between these 3 modes, you control which motors the gimbal uses to follow your movement.
Your camera can dramatically change how people see the world. And gimbal modes help you to use that power.
In follow mode, the gimbal follows your pan and tilt movement while keeping the camera level with the horizon. This is the default mode for a good reason, because this is the way people generally see the world.
When we view the world, we tend to look from side to side or up and down. We keep our eyes level with the horizon. We don't often tilt our head to the side.
Unless you have a good reason not to, keep the gimbal in follow mode. The next mode along is tilt locked. In tilt locked mode, the gimbal only follows your pan movement. If you tilt the gimbal, it will try to keep the camera facing forwards. But this is one of the Osmo Mobile 6's weaknesses.
When you design a fold-up gimbal, sacrifices need to be made. And in this case, what you gain in portability, you lose in the tilt axis. And this means that the gimbal can only tilt so far before it has to follow. But it still negates small movements, And, handshake is a small movement, isn't it?
Tilt lock mode is useful when you want the camera to stay facing forwards. For example, when you're following a moving subject.
As you know that you want your shot to look up or down, then tilt lock mode is going to give you slightly smoother footage.
Press the mode button and switch to FPV, or first person view mode. In FPV mode, whichever way you move, the gimbal will follow, even on the roll axis. My friends, your smartphone camera is finally free.
People don't really walk around sort of tipping their heads from side to side. So moving the camera this way, it's a bit like being on a roller coaster, or maybe like being on a boat in a stormy sea.
Switch to FPV mode and take your viewers on a wild ride. And they don't even need to leave their sofa. Now you want to really turn people's world upside down, then switch to spin shot. Now that you're a master of modes, you'll want to work on your speed.
As a creator, I need my tools to be easy to use and easy to set up. If I spot an opportunity for a shot, then I need it to be ready in seconds. If it takes too long, then the opportunity might be lost.
Legendary film director Stanley Kubrick was notorious for demanding take after take. One shot in the film The Shining took 148 takes. But what if you only get one chance to capture a special moment?
DJI have worked for years on these Osmo Mobile gimbals, and now they're faster than ever to set up and get filming. The magnetic clamp allows you to mount and dismount your phone quickly to and from the gimbal. Even if you set it up right, as soon as you attach your phone to the gimbal, the Mimo app pops up.
Tap and you're ready to shoot. Here's a good question. What's the difference between photos and videos?
I had this question put to me once. I was a bit stumped for a while and I was thinking, is it lighting? No, both photos and videos use lighting. And I thought maybe it's story. But actually photos and videos can both tell stories. And then it came to me, movement. I mean, duh, of course it's movement. A photo doesn't move, but a video does. I mean, it's even called a movie.
Without movement, you may as well switch to photo mode and just take a snap. But that would be an awful waste of this powerful technology.
If there's movement within the frame, then we're fine. Camera movement is less important. But what if there's nothing moving? What if you're filming inside a building? What if you're filming a landscape? If there's nothing happening within the frame, then move the frame. When I made my feature film back in 2010, 3-axis gimbals didn't exist. And if we wanted to add camera movement, it was really difficult. But if we'd had one of these back then, it would have made life so much easier.
Movement is what separates the plain old photographers from Oscar-winning cinematographers. Moving the camera means laying down tracks, hiring a big crane, or an expensive Steadicam. Say it quietly, but a $100 gimbal might just do the job instead.
Using a smartphone with the Osmo Mobile 6 means you can now shoot a totally smooth forward movement. Just be careful with the bobbing up and down you get from the footsteps.
What shots are possible with an Osmo Mobile 6? We got the pan shot, tilt shot, roll shot, tracking shot, vertigo shot, dolly shot, zoom shot, hyperlapse, time-lapse, motion lapse. But there's even a couple more tricks up its sleeve.
Extend the handle and you can now shoot crane shots. You can also shoot high shots angled down and low shots angled up. And there's also the flying shot, like a low flying drone. And you can even add something like a monopod and get an even greater reach.
We're now in the age of the independent video creator. Once you become a star, you can even hire a camera operator or an editor. But pretty much all creators start out the same way, filming solo.
Like the majority of YouTubers, I work alone. There's no team supporting me. That means I have to cover a lot of bases myself.
Creating video content on your own can be quite a challenge, but at least there's no risk of wasting time arguing with the crew. Any tool which makes the job easier and faster is going to help us achieve our creator goals.
Even when I shot my feature film, I was working basically without a crew. So that all adds up to a lot of experience working out how to get things done. And the Osmo Mobile 6 supports a bunch of features that will help solo creators.
The Osmo Mobile 6 has the new improved ActiveTrack 6.0.
Set the gimbal on a tripod and it's going to follow you around, like having a crew member filming you. Now you can get these kinds of shots solo.
DJI have worked on the ActiveTrack system, so it now works just as well whether you use the front or rear cameras. And if you turn around, it will keep tracking.
It can be frustrating when the gimbal loses track in the middle of a shot, and then you have to do the whole shot again. With the new tracking, the 6.0, it aims to make the gimbal a little bit more reliable in that respect. And by the way, the new tracking is just a simple firmware update. The gimbal itself hasn't actually changed. So if you already have the Osmo Mobile 6, you don't need a new gimbal to get this new tracking.
Time is a funny thing. It can seem to fly by, or it can drag on forever. But for creators, time is our playground. We can speed things up and create energy. Or we can slow things down to create drama. We can even rewind time to show how everything started.
Cinema isn't just about movement, it's also about time. And as a creator, the way we express time can have a huge impact on our audience. Techniques such as slow motion and time-lapse can be achieved just with a smartphone. But one thing that you can't do without a gimbal is to create a motion lapse.
If a shot is defined by its motion and by the way it expresses time, then a motion lapse is a combination of those two powerful cinematic elements.
A time lapse is a completely stationary shot. The drama is created by life speeding past. As a viewer, we're kind of rooted to the spot. A motion lapse is like a time lapse, but with a pan or a tilt movement added. And to get this shot, you really need a 3-axis gimbal. Some gimbals are better than others at achieving this. But I would say that the Osmo Mobile 6 is definitely one of the better gimbals at this.
We've covered modes and movement, we've talked about tracking, and spent quite a bit of time talking about time. I suggest we change our focus. The use of rack focus is a cinematic technique that has been used since the early days of cinema. The focus pull can be seen in movies made by Alfred Hitchcock all the way to those made by Christopher Nolan. But is it such a big deal?
Showy stuff often gets a lot of attention online. I don't know, like someone flying a drone around a bowling alley or something. And everyone goes, wow, and then they share it. But it doesn't really last in our thoughts after that. What makes great cinematography is actually a lot of small things that come together to create something moving and powerful.
The focus puller, otherwise known as first assistant camera, is widely regarded as one of the most skilled jobs on a movie set. Now, since DJI has added a focus controller to the Osmo Mobile 6, we can all try our hand at it.
It's actually pretty easy to shoot a focus pull with a smartphone. You just need an app that lets you control focus while you're filming. With the wheel, it's just a little bit easier.
Humans have been storytellers since the beginning of time.
Well, that's not entirely true, is it? I mean, humans have been around for about 300,000 years, and I think the Earth is a lot older than that.
I stand corrected. Humans have only been storytellers for a relatively short period of time. The oldest known cave paintings are about 30,000 years old, and the first written stories are only about 5,000 years old.
But even before we could write, we were telling stories. We told stories through our actions, through our rituals, and as well through our art. Storytelling is a fundamental part of what makes us human. It's how we make sense of the world, how we connect with each other, and how we pass on our knowledge and our values to future generations. So even though humans haven't been storytellers since the beginning of time, we've been telling stories for long enough that it's become part of our DNA. We're actually pretty hardwired to tell stories, and we're probably going to be telling stories for as long as we exist.
In the early days, our tools were simple. We used our hands to draw on cave walls, and we used our voices to sing and tell stories. But as we've evolved, our tools have become more sophisticated.
We started with little shells that we used to hold pigments for our cave paintings. We invented paper, and we invented the printing press, and then we invented film. And now we have tools like the Osmo Mobile 6. This pretty cool little device allows us to tell beautiful stories with our smartphones.
Whether it's a cave painting or a video on your smartphone, your tools can help you bring your story to life. And who knows, maybe one day the Osmo Mobile 6 will be used to create cave paintings of the future. After all, storytelling is a universal human need, and we'll always find new ways to express ourselves.